On February 29th, over 100 Palestinians were killed and 700 were injured while waiting for aid in northern Gaza. On the day, the mainstream media referred to it as a chaotic incident or ran with Israel's propaganda that a stampede led to the casualties and injuries. But even Israel's security minister doesn't believe any of that. He called Israeli soldiers heroes for assaulting Palestinians waiting for humanitarian aid. Witnesses on the day told the truth that Israel had opened fire at the waiting Gazans, and Gaza health officials said that gunfire accounted for 80% of the wounds on that day. There have also been reports of tanks and bulldozers running over civilians on that day. This image of a zip-tied civilian who was run over by either a tank or a bulldozer has been circulating the internet. I saw the uncensored version, and my brain still can't comprehend that what I saw is real. Not in that I don't believe it, in that it's incomprehensible that it happened, that it was allowed to happen, that I saw it with my own eyes. This was not a stampede. Perhaps the stampede occurred after Israel opened fire, but the majority of the injuries were not caused by a stampede. I want to get into more details about how Israel directly contributed to the loss of life and injuries on that day. First, with this article from the Euromed Monitor, new evidence confirms Israel's full involvement in Flower massacre of starving Palestinian civilians. Through a forensic investigation, they were able to verify the Israeli army's role in the massacre, citing evidence including the precise type of bullets used. Many victims of the massacre suffered injuries from 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO bullets. This is the type of bullet fired from Israeli army weapons. A sample of 200 dead and injured victims revealed that they were indeed hit by this type of bullet and that the bullets were discovered and examined at the massacre site, along with shrapnel found in the bodies of the wounded and dead. This type of ammo is used by assault rifles like M4 and Taver, along with machine guns. Additional analysis of the specific kind of ammunition revealed that 5.56 by 45 millimeter ammunition is basic FMJ bullet used by Israeli army. They list further details identifying the ammunition. This type of bullet is imported from the United Kingdom on occasion, produced in 2020 and 2022, and licensed for use by the Israeli Ministry of Defense. It is also manufactured in Israel by IMI Systems, formerly known as the Israeli Military Industries Company, which is a manufacturer of weapons, ammunition, and military technology. 17-year-old Mohammed Yasser Washah was present during the massacre. He stated that a bullet hit the bag of flour he was carrying, but luckily, although it went through the bag, it became lodged in his jacket. After examining the bullet in question, Euromed Monitor discovered that its form and dimensions were identical to those of the bullet described above. The rights group also did interviews with people present at the massacre who said that Israeli forces started directly shooting at the civilians that morning. At 5:30 a.m., the Israeli army raided the entire gathering, where many people were lying injured, killed, or were attempting to flee. Many people at the site were taken into custody, while others were forced to evacuate to the south of the Gaza Strip. Israeli forces directly executed others and left their bodies on a nearby beach. Eyewitnesses explained that the Israeli soldiers arrested a doctor, Muhammad Awad, and then released him. After he moved several steps away, they opened fire on him and wounded him in the shoulder. Shortly before 4:30 a.m., a second witness told Euromed Monitor the trucks passed the checkpoint and the Israeli army started firing, throwing stun grenades and smoke bombs. The tank then advanced and the massacre occurred. This witness is a paramedic and said that people on site had suffered injuries to their chests and limbs. Euromed Monitor states that 112 civilians were killed and 760 were injured. The rights group highlighted four key pieces of evidence confirming the Israeli army's full involvement in killing and wounding starving civilians. The first being the signs of injuries on the bodies of the dead and injured. The second being footage released by the Israeli army itself. This includes audible evidence of gunfire emanating from Israeli tanks positioned near the coast. Euromed Monitor also pointed to an aerial video published by the Israeli army, which, despite being heavily edited, captures the state of sheer panic and intimidation that struck all of the civilians present, including those relatively far away from the aid trucks, and pushed them to flee in all directions in order to seek shelter. Euromed Monitor warned that the Israeli shooting of starving Palestinian civilians receiving aid has become a regular practice. In recent weeks, Israeli forces have directly attacked and killed dozens of people in Gaza, including on Salah al-Din Street and in the vicinity of the Kuwait roundabout, where it occurred no less than twice since the Flower Massacre. The most recent of these attacks was just last night, said the rights organization, when many civilians were injured by Israeli violence near the Kuwait roundabout. The Geneva-based rights group urged the international community to force Israel to halt its starvation campaign against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip in order to prevent the impending catastrophe of mass famine there, and to hold Israel accountable for its crimes and grave violations against the Strip and all of its Palestinian residents. And now back to this image. Israeli tanks have deliberately run over dozens of Palestinian civilians alive, said Euromed Monitor. Euromed Monitor documented the Israeli army's killing of a Palestinian man who was deliberately run over in Gaza City's Al Zaytun neighborhood on February 29th after he was arrested. The man was subjected to harsh interrogation by members of the Israeli army, who bound his hands with plastic zip-tie handcuffs before running him over with a military vehicle from the bottom to the top of his body. The victim's mutilated body and the surrounding area bear obvious signs that a military bulldozer or tank was present. It appears that the victim was purposefully stripped of his clothes, as he was seen wearing only underpants at the time of his death. Another documented incident took place on January 23rd when an Israeli tank ran over members of the Ghanem family while they were sleeping in a sheltered caravan in the Taiba Towers area of Khan Yunis. As a result, a man and his eldest daughter were killed, and his remaining 3 children and wife were injured. Amina, a 13-year-old, experienced extreme pressure in her eyes, nearly losing her sight. Euromed Monitor also documented Israeli tanks and bulldozers running over and crushing displaced people inside their tents in Beit Lahi's Kamal Adwan Hospital courtyard on December 16, 2023. Several people were killed during the incident, including individuals who were initially injured and did not ultimately survive. More recently, a Palestinian family survived a February 20th running attack after Israeli tracks ran over their tent on the shore of the Khan Yunis Sea. A female civilian said that she was shocked by the tank suddenly running over her tent. Euromed Monitor affirmed that all of these violations are part of a larger Israeli effort to dehumanize every Palestinian in the Gaza Strip in order to justify and normalize the crimes being committed against them. Crushing civilians with tanks is just one of the many cruel ways the Israeli army murders Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, disregarding their humanity, suffering, and dignity. There is no justification for the Israeli army to commit these serious crimes, Euromed Monitor confirmed. Even its claims that some of the aforementioned acts were directed towards Palestinian fighters does not release Israel from criminal responsibility, seeing as international law protects both civilians and fighters who have given up or lost all means of defense, with the Rome Statute classifying their killing or wounding as war crimes. This is another article. Israeli soldier boasted about running over dead Palestinian man with tank. Reservist posted video of Palestinian body through tank window, stating that he drove over the man with a 65-ton tank. Daniel Lurie, a 22-year-old Israeli reservist, posted a video on Monday featuring the dead body of a Palestinian seen through a tank window. Alongside the video, Lurie wrote, "A second later, I accidentally ran over him with a Merc 1 Mark IV tank weighing 65 tons, 1,500 horsepower." He also wrote, "We passed 30,000 peace meetings, how fun," in reference to Palestinians killed by Israeli forces in Gaza. Elsewhere, Lurie posted about the mass killing of over 100 Palestinians who had gathered in Gaza City to receive aid on Thursday. Another article, crushing Palestinians with heavy vehicles. Israeli soldiers have killed many Palestinian civilians in Gaza by running them over with tanks and armored vehicle, a report by the Euromed Human Rights Monitor on Monday found. Last week, Rami Abdou, chairman of the Euromed Monitor, told Middle East Eye that he believed hundreds of Palestinians have been run over by Israeli tanks. The Israeli leaders themselves have adopted a strategy of demonizing and dehumanizing Palestinians, which means that even burning them alive is allowed, and you see even the Israeli soldiers are competing with each other to publish stories on social media about the level of brutality they are willing to inflict on Palestinians. This is a screenshot of a video. If you can see, there are legs under the tire of that military vehicle running over a body. I don't know if they're alive or dead. In this video, the truck moves forward and rolls back over the body, then drives off, running over it at least 3 times. And this is a screenshot of another video. Footage shows skeletal remains inside a vehicle targeted and run over by Israeli tanks on Salah al-Din Street in central Gaza. I don't think I'll ever be able to stop thinking about the uncensored image of that man who had been arrested and was run over alive by a tank. Someone described it in a way I can't stop thinking about either. It looked like tomatoes that had been crushed, red and yellow from the blood and organs and fat. It literally changed the way I think about the human body. Israel is committing these war crimes with impunity, being funded by Western leaders and governments being supported by mainstream media that refuses to call them out directly, that insists on perpetuating their propaganda. Israel is psychopathic in its treatment of Palestinians, and the world is letting them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it. Free Palestine.